All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, what made you decide to leave, I guess, the comforts of home and come all the way to the Metroplex once again?
The short answer to that is, number one, felt like God called us here. And why is because what we feel like we've been called to in terms of having an impact on young men. What we were doing back there just became unsustainable where we were at in terms of just resources, infrastructure, things that are in place to try to help what we were doing. The comprehensive approach to coaching young men and coaching football felt like that wasn't going to be able to be sustainable up there. And down here at this place at Waxahachie in particular, feel like they have that infrastructure in place. They have that that same vision and mindset of let's be great, but let's be great with character. And so just felt like that was the perfect fit.
Spent a lot of time here, obviously, with the Cowboys and various endeavors making your way down here. What was that first experience like when you realized that Texas high school football was really something special, and being able to witness that for the first time?
Yeah, we lived in South Lake when we lived here, and my son was, my oldest was 6th, 7th, 8th grade in that area, and so we played on a baseball team there, and then he did the Dragon Youth football program, and really got to be get to be good friends with some families there, and they would take us and talk about the history of not only South Lake but Texas high school football, and they were just great people, great friends. The Buck family, the Small family, these great friends of ours, and so they really helped me understand that. And then I got to spend some time kind of on the inside of Trinity's program my last year with Dallas, and 6 weeks of just kind of giving chapel messages to their players on a Wednesday night, and got to see that a little bit and just enthralled by it. And that was what I went home with. That dream and that vision is what I went home with, and seeing it done this way down here on that level, and how to be successful year in and year out and build a program. It really helped me to shape what I know to be for high school football. And then that was part of the thing back there. We did it, we just couldn't do it and sustain it because of just the support. And so I mean, I love it. I love watching people do things at a high level in excellence.
I know you donated the money that you earned with the Cowboys that last week to help with the program up there, and you felt like still that it was just a long way to go, and it was a lot easier to come down here and set it up.
I'm not going to call it easier. I just think that it's more conducive. Back there, the playing field is not even, and you have programs that are $400,000, $300,000 a year budget programs. Your top 3 or 4 like that in each division, and then everybody else is, we had a zero budget in 3 years. We got $0 from our district, and I would get 4 paid coaches at $4,000 a year, and the head coach is getting $6,000 a year, and that's just not conducive to doing something at a high level, what I've seen down here, and what I want to do. And it's going to take a lot of community involvement and buy-in and investment. And donating that last year, that went to feeding those kids. When it's all said and done, $25,000, $30,000, whatever it was after the taxes were taken out, that went to feeding those kids, not to budget, football budget. It was just helping these young men be able to eat on a daily basis.
Why did you decide that, after you felt like your pro career was winding down, that this was what you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to do this. I knew from high school that I wanted to coach. And when I got in college, it became even more apparent when I got more mature and stopped being a knucklehead like I was in high school in my first couple years of college. I knew the impact that my high school basketball coach had on me, Jon Kitna. Just a great man, and really kind of saved my life at that time. And there's been other coaches along the way who've had that same kind of investment, but he was the one that I looked at and said, man, I just remember the impact that he had coming in my junior year and watching what he did with young men who never had structure, and how he instilled that, and how the group of guys that he started with those 2 or 3 years were all doing successful things. And I think that's a result of what he started there. And so I always knew I wanted to be a high school coach. Then the NFL happened. And then you go through the process of, well, do I want to coach at a different level? Do I want to stay in the NFL, or do I want to do college or something like that? And I just always felt like the greatest opportunity for impact long term was to be at the high school level. And so that's where it all kind of came from. It honed my vision being in the NFL, and I want to be a head coach. I don't want to be a coordinator. I have strong convictions about the things that I want to do, and so that's where that came from.
It's interesting looking at your career. I mean, you accomplished a lot. Won up in NFL Europe, got to work alongside some of the best quarterbacks who are still playing in the league right now. Are some of your kids a little starstruck? Are they a little too young to know some of the big moments that you've had in your career?
I would say, outside of my son, you probably have a hard time finding any of these young men that knew anything that I did in my career, and that's fine. Certainly what I did and where I came from kind of gives you an opening, and it opens the door. But there's a lot of people that come into my house. There's very few people that I invite to take their shoes off and sit down, and that's what I want with these kids, is for them to understand and this community and this program, that I'm glad you're excited, but we want to make you proud. And you young men, you coaches, you're going to be a part of helping this community feel pride. And we want to turn that excitement into pride.
Do you have your motivational speeches all set to go, things that you've learned along the way in terms of when to bring them out? And
I just try to be who I am. That's part of what distinguished my career was, if you ask anybody, I was a leader, and people were drawn to leadership from my position, and whether that was as a backup or as a starter. I'm a leader. I'm not going to can speeches and things like that to pull out at certain moments. I feel like every team has its own personality, and we're going to coach that team for that particular moment, and that group of kids. And so, we're just talking with one of my coaches. He was asking, what's the difference between here and where you were at? And I said, where we were at was, you had to come in with a jackhammer and lay a foundation. That's ugly work. That's ugly work, and there's a lot of noise and things like that. Coming here, the foundation is here, and now it's a brick and mortar, building something that is going to be a beautiful thing, and I can't wait.
What did you get out of your time with the Cowboys?
Loved Jason Garrett's leadership style, and hated that Wade Phillips had to get fired. And I understood the weight of that. Being a veteran guy and understanding that coaches get fired when players don't do their job, that was hard. But watching Jason Garrett come in with conviction, it's helping me right now. In the middle of a season, to come in with a plan and be willing to stand on your convictions when you got other coaches around you that might be like, yeah, who's this guy, why is he the next one, or whatever it may be. Jason has such conviction from the beginning. And it really encouraged me. He's somebody I've talked to for the last 3 years. And, I know a lot of people got to see the success of the Cowboys this year, and it should have been better. They were robbed in that game. We all know that. But I know what went into making that happen, and the stuff that's behind the scenes that people really don't probably want to listen to, but people that are in leadership positions and management type positions that are trying to get the most out of their company, which, this is kind of like a company, understand. And man, that was awesome. The other thing was, your best players need to work the hardest. And watching Jason Witten and DeMarcus Ware and Marion Barber when I first got there, watching these guys work, they were the hardest workers. And that's been a message that I've carried my first 3 years where I was at, and I'm going to carry here, is, we need our best to be the best all the time. But Jason Garrett, his attention to detail, organization skills is, to me, second to none. People ask me for the last 3 years, who's the best coach you played under? And I always said Jason Garrett. That was before this year when everybody was doubting him. And I always said that because I feel like that position needs to have the qualities that he has.
And you really felt like you learned that significantly when you had to come in and relief work.
I always knew that organization and detail was important, but then watching how it worked, and watching the strong convictions that he has. And he, not that he hasn't, shaped and molded and changed and adapted to some things, but his core beliefs and his convictions he stuck to. And I think you have to have that. You have to have that. The higher you go up in positions of leadership, you have to have that. And that's what I learned.
Is Tony Romo going to win a Super Bowl?
I think so. I think, again, a lot of crazy things happen in the NFL. And I've always said, you get to the final 8 of anything, high school, college, pro, you get to the final 8, anybody can win or lose that game. You're talking about good teams. It's hard to get there. And I know Dallas has been spoiled in the past and all that stuff and had a huge run of success and things like that. It's hard to get there. Year in and year out, it's hard to get there. But, I think that team is built to win now and for a sustainable amount of time. So, I think he's got a chance to give himself the opportunity to do it. You get to that final 8, crazy things happen, and we saw that this year.
Throw a slant on 2nd and 1 at the goal line, and
you never know.
Sure.
You never know, and it's the margin for error is small. But I'm sure Romo, he reached out to me when we got this job, and congratulations, welcome back to Texas, and I'm sure we'll get him down to call a play or something down here at some point.
Get him to a practice or a game, whatever.
That's right.
We're going to see any other Cowboys at games coming up.
Never know. Might try to entice Dez to come down. Dez has been a great friend of my son, who's going to be a senior this year. So you never know. And those guys are great friends of mine, and we'll see.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit. I mean, I know, Dez sometimes doesn't have the best of reputations for a variety of reasons, but, a lot of guys still stick with him. I mean, talk about that relationship that you have with him.
Well, the best of reputation depends who you're talking to. When you're talking to that top 1% of players that play in the NFL, they get it. It's the people that don't play in the NFL that don't get that. They don't understand that passion and that enthusiasm. Not every player is cut from the same mold. Not every player is going to be laid back. You have a great example of that. You have Peyton Manning, who wants to have his hand in everything. You have Eli Manning, who just seems like, I'm just give me what you got. I'm gonna make it work. There's two different. I love Dez, and he's misunderstood, but he's misunderstood by people he's not trying to have understand him. I think ownership, people in decision-making places understand it. I think the players understand it. There's a passion there. And just because you get your message across with passion, that doesn't mean that your message doesn't have merit. Jason Witten has the same passion. Jason's just a little more cognizant of cameras that might be watching, and so he can have that same passion, but he does it from in here, where Dez is going to be flamboyant and charismatic, but it's the same exact message.